Far away from the busy star routes of the galaxy, there was a dark and silent region of space. Many pilots called this place the graveyard sector. Old ships, broken stations, and forgotten wrecks floated there for thousands of years. No one liked to travel through that place unless they had no other choice. The silence there felt strange and heavy, like space itself was watching. On this day, a large alien exploration fleet slowly moved through the graveyard sector. The fleet belonged to the Veleron Empire, a powerful alien civilization known for exploring dangerous parts of the galaxy. Their ships were long and sharp, with glowing blue engines cutting through the darkness of space. Inside the command bridge of the lead ship, Captain Viral watched the star charts carefully. He was an experienced commander, calm and careful, but even he did not like the graveyard sector. Too many ships had vanished there over the centuries. A young sensor officer suddenly spoke with confusion in his voice. "Captain, we are detecting something unusual." Viral turned his head slowly. "Show me." A large image appeared above the control table. The officers on the bridge immediately became silent. Floating in the darkness was a massive ship, much larger than any wreck they had seen in this region. The ship was human. Everyone on the bridge stared at the image with shock. Humanity was an old and mysterious species in the galaxy long ago. Humans had fought a terrible war against many alien empires. Their ships were powerful, their weapons terrifying, but one day humanity suddenly disappeared from most parts of the galaxy, leaving only ruins and legends behind. Finding a human ship like this was extremely rare. Captain Viral stepped closer to the hologram, scanned the vessel. The sensor officer quickly worked on the controls. A few seconds later, new readings appeared. No active weapons, no engine power, no life signs. The ship was completely silent. It was drifting slowly through space like a forgotten ghost. Another officer spoke quietly. "Captain, this vessel is ancient. It must be from the human war era." Viral studied the ship carefully. The hull was dark and damaged. Long scars covered its metal surface, showing signs of massive battles from the past. Parts of the armor looked melted, as if powerful energy weapons had struck it many times. Yet the ship was still intact. That alone was impressive. Human warships were famous for their strength, but surviving this long in space was something else. "Zoom on the hull," markings Viral ordered. The hologram moved closer, slowly revealing old human letters burned into the metal. HYRAS, Titan's Ghost. The officers exchanged nervous looks. Even the name sounded strange. One scientist standing near the control table suddenly spoke with excitement. "Captain, if this really is a human warship from the ancient war, the technology inside could be priceless. We could learn things no one in the modern galaxy understands." Another officer nodded in agreement. Ancient human weapons were feared by every empire. If even a small part of their systems is still inside the ship, it could change everything. Viral remained silent for a moment, thinking carefully. Exploring unknown ships could be dangerous, but the opportunity was too important to ignore. "Prepare a full scan," he ordered again. The sensors focused on the ship once more, searching for hidden power signals or active systems again. The results appeared. No energy readings, no movement, no signs of life. The ship looked completely dead. One of the officers laughed quietly. "It is just an old wreck, Captain. A lucky discovery for us?" Viral slowly crossed his arms. "Maybe." Outside, the massive warship floated in the darkness, its shape enormous compared to the alien vessels. The long body of the ship stretched for kilometers. Large gun batteries were mounted across its surface, silent and cold, like sleeping giants. Pieces of broken metal drifted around it, remains of old battles, long forgotten by history. After a few moments, Viral made his decision: prepare a boarding team. The bridge became busy instantly. Soldiers and scientists began preparing equipment and boarding shuttles. If the ship truly contained ancient human systems, they needed to secure it before anyone else discovered it. In the hangar bay, a small shuttle slowly moved toward the giant ghost ship. Bright lights from the alien fleet illuminated the old human vessel, revealing more scars across its armor. The ship looked like it had fought against entire fleets and somehow survived inside the shuttle. The boarding team watched the warship grow larger through the front window. None of them spoke. The ship felt wrong, like something inside it was still watching. As the shuttle approached the damaged airlock, one of the soldiers whispered, "This place gives me a bad feeling." The scientist next to him smiled nervously. "Relax. It is just an abandoned human relic." The shuttle connected to the airlock with a loud metal lock. A moment later, the door slowly opened. Cold air drifted from the dark corridor inside the warship. The lights inside the ship flickered weakly, showing long, empty hallways covered in dust and frozen ice. The soldiers stepped inside carefully, their boots echoing through the silent corridor behind them. The airlock closed, the ghost warship remained completely quiet. Far away from them, deep inside the center of the ship, hidden systems began to wake up. Ancient circuits that had slept for thousands of years slowly received power again. A small light appeared inside the old control core. Then another and another. Finally, a deep mechanical voice whispered softly in the darkness. Unknown life forms detected. Scanning. A short pause followed, then the system finished its analysis, warning non-human presence confirmed. After 3,000 years of silence, the ghost warship had finally awakened. The alien boarding team moved slowly through the dark corridor of the human warship. Their boots echoed softly against the cold metal floor. Every step felt heavy, because the silence of the ship was strange and uncomfortable. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness, revealing old walls, broken panels, and frozen pipes. The air inside the ship was cold but still breathable. The life support system must have been designed to last for centuries. One of the soldiers looked around carefully while holding his plasma rifle ready. "This place feels wrong," he said quietly. The scientist walking beside him shook his head. "It is just an old ship. Nothing more. Ancient human vessels were built to survive extreme conditions." They continued moving deeper into the corridor. Long metal doors lined the walls. Some were broken, others were sealed shut. The ship looked like it had suffered heavy damage long ago during a massive battle. Captain Viral watched everything from the bridge of his command ship through the cameras attached to the boarding team's armor. "Report your status," he said. The leader of the boarding team, Commander Draven, answered calmly. "No signs of life, Captain. The ship appears abandoned. We are moving toward the main control section." "Good," Viral replied. "Stay alert. We do not know what systems may still be active." Far inside the ghost warship, something ancient was slowly waking deep within the central core of the ship, hidden behind thick armored walls. An old artificial intelligence system began running its first full diagnostic in thousands of years. Power levels slowly increased across forgotten circuits. Long dormant sensors activated one by one. The system studied the intruders walking through the ship. Unknown biological species detected. Scanning data. The eye compared the alien life forms with its ancient database, but it could not find an exact match. Classification. Unknown threat probability rising. For 3,000 years, the ship had waited, drifting silently through space after the last great human war. Its mission had never ended: protect human technology, eliminate threats. The ancient program continued analyzing the situation. Meanwhile, the alien team entered a wider section of the ship. The corridor opened into a massive hangar bay. Old human fighter craft rested inside like sleeping beasts. Most of them were damaged, but their shapes still looked powerful. The scientists stared at the fighters with excitement. "Incredible," one of them whispered. "These are ancient human strike ships. Their design is far ahead of modern technology." Another scientist moved closer to one of the fighters, studying its weapons. "Even damage this weapon system could destroy modern ships easily." The soldiers looked less impressed. They kept watching the shadows around them carefully. Suddenly, the lights inside the hangar flickered. Everyone stopped moving. "Did you see that?" one soldier asked. "Probably old power systems activating," the scientist replied, but his voice sounded uncertain. High above them, hidden cameras quietly followed every movement inside the command bridge of the alien flagship. Captain Viral leaned closer to the display. Something about the ship was bothering him. "Run another deep scan," he ordered. The sensor officer quickly followed the command. A moment later, the results appeared. "Captain, we are detecting extremely weak power signals inside the ship." Viral frowned. "How weak?" "Very weak," the officer answered. "Almost nothing." "But it is there." Viral stared at the ancient warship floating outside his window. That ship should be completely dead. Back inside the hangar, the boarding team continued their exploration. One of the soldiers noticed something strange on the wall. "Captain Draven," he called, "look at this." The commander walked over and looked where the soldier pointed. Written on the wall in old human language were several words burned into the metal. The translation computer inside their helmets slowly processed the text. "Human military defense protocol. Non-human boarding action detected. Automatic response authorized." The commander stared at the message before he could react. The entire ship suddenly came alive. Lights across the corridor turned on. Metal doors slammed shut throughout the vessel. Alarms began echoing through the hangar. The alien soldiers quickly raised their weapons. "What is happening?" one scientist shouted. Commander Draven tried to contact the fleet captain. "The ship systems are activating on the bridge." Captain Viral stood up immediately. "What systems?" Suddenly, the sensors screamed warnings. Massive power surge detected inside the human ship, energy flowing through multiple systems. "Weapon systems are powering up," the officer shouted. Viral felt a chill run through his body. That ship is not dead. Inside the ghost warship, ancient engines slowly began warming up. Reactors that had slept for thousands of years started producing energy again. The A-Corps continued its analysis. Intruders confirmed human command authority, absent default directive. Protect human technology. Neutralize threat deep inside the hull. Heavy defense turrets slowly rotated for the first time in millennia. Their metal joints moved with deep grinding sounds as targeting systems began scanning the alien fleet outside. Inside the hangar, the alien team looked around in fear as the giant ship woke around them. The calm scientist who had spoken earlier now looked terrified. "This ship was never abandoned," he whispered. The commander tried to open the airlock to escape, but the system refused his command access, denied human security lock. "Engage." The ancient voice of the ship suddenly echoed through the entire corridor. "Foreign biological entities detected. Trespass confirmed." Automatic defense protocol. Active elimination sequence. Preparing, the soldiers raised their rifles nervously, but they knew their weapons were useless against a ship this size far outside. The massive human warship slowly turned in space, facing the alien fleet. Ancient engines glowed faintly for the first time in 3,000 years. Captain Viral stared at the terrifying sight on the screen. The ghost warship was waking up, and humanity's deadliest weapon had just begun to open its eyes. The ancient human warship slowly moved in the darkness of space. Its massive engines glowed faintly as power returned to systems that had been silent for 3,000 years. The alien fleet watched the giant vessel with growing fear. On the bridge of the Velaran flagship, Captain Viral stood frozen as warning signals filled the control room. "Captain, the human ship is increasing power levels rapidly," the sensor officer said with panic in his voice. "How is that possible?" Viral asked. "This ship was supposed to be dead," another officer answered quickly. "Ancient reactor systems or online weapon systems are activating across the hull." The large display above the command table showed the human warship turning slowly, its enormous body moving with calm, unstoppable strength. The ship looked like a giant awakening from a long sleep. Inside the ghost warship, the alien boarding team could hear the deep sound of machinery waking up around them. Heavy systems moved inside the walls. Metal plates shifted, and old engines vibrated through the structure of the ship. Commander Draven tried to open the airlock again, but the control panel refused his commands. The system voice answered him with cold precision. "Access denied. Human command authority required." The soldiers looked at each other nervously. "We need to get out of here," one of them said. The scientist who had been studying the fighters earlier now stared at the ceiling with fear. "This is not just a ship," he whispered. "This is a defense system." Suddenly, the lights inside the hangar turned red. An alarm echoed through the giant chamber. "Threat containment procedure. Active foreign life forms detected." The commander raised his rifle, spread out. "Stay alert." High above them, hidden weapon ports slowly opened. Small automated defense drones moved out from the walls, their metal bodies glowing with faint blue light. The drones hovered silently, scanning the alien intruders. One of the soldiers aimed his weapon. "Should we fire?" "No," the commander answered quickly. "We do not know what those things can do." But the drones had already finished scanning analysis. Complete hostile probability. High defense units activated. The drones moved faster suddenly. Beams of energy fired across the hangar. The alien soldiers jumped behind metal crates and damaged fighters as the bright blasts struck the floor. The first soldier did not move fast enough. A beam hit his armor, sending him crashing across the floor. The commander shouted, "Return fire." The soldiers opened fire with their plasma rifles. Bright shots filled the hangar, but the small drones moved quickly, dodging many of the attacks. The battle inside the ghost warship had begun far outside in space. The human vessel continued powering up. Massive gun batteries slowly rotated across its surface, targeting systems, scanning the alien fleet with cold precision. On the bridge, Captain Viral shouted, "New orders, all ships, defensive formation." Now the Velaran fleet quickly moved around the ghost warship, forming a battle line, their weapons charged with glowing energy. But the alien officers were nervous. They had never faced a human warship from the ancient Warship From the ancient war before Captain the human ship is locking weapons on our fleet, an officer reported. Viral stared at the screen showing the terrifying size of the enemy vessel open communication channel. He ordered a signal was sent toward the ghost warship. This is Captain Viral of the Baloran Exploration Fleet. We come in peace, power down your weapons. For several seconds there was only silence then. A signal returned, but it was not a human voice. It was the ancient artificial intelligence of the warship. This vessel is human military asset. Non-human fleet, detected within defense perimeter. Threat classification, active, withdraw immediately or be destroyed. The alien officers looked shocked. Captain, the ship is controlled by artificial intelligence. Viral clenched his fists. That machine has been alone for 3,000 years. It still thinks the war is happening before anyone could speak again. The sensor screamed with another warning. Massive energy spike. Detected. The ghost warship fired a beam of bright white energy shot from the front cannon of the ancient vessel, crossing the darkness of space in an instant. One of the Baloran ships exploded before the crew even understood what happened. The blast was so powerful that fragments of the alien cruiser scattered across space like burning stars. Silence filled the alien bridge. Their fleet had never seen a weapon like that, Captain. Viral whispered quietly. One shot. Just one shot. Destroyed. A warship inside the ghost vessel. The battle continued. 2 alien soldiers had already been injured. The drones were small but extremely fast, moving through the air with perfect precision. The commander managed to destroy one with a direct plasma hit, but 3 more drones moved into the fight from hidden compartments. The scientist shouted while hiding behind a fighter craft, "This ship is protecting itself like a fortress." Commander Draven looked around desperately. "We cannot fight the whole ship. We must find the control core. If they could shut down the artificial intelligence, the warship might stop attacking. Their fleet, follow me," he ordered. The remaining soldiers quickly moved across the hangar, avoiding the attacking drones, as they ran toward a large armored door at the far end of the chamber. The door slowly opened by itself. The ship was guiding them. The alien commander hesitated. This feels like a trap, but they had no other choice behind them. The drones continued firing. The team rushed through the door, entering a long corridor leading deeper into the heart of the ship. Far inside the control core, the ancient artificial intelligence observed their movement carefully. The system had made a new calculation: allow intruders to reach central command, trap probability success high. For 30,000 years, the ghost warship had waited alone in the darkness, guarding the last and most dangerous weapon humanity had ever created. And now the intruders were walking directly toward it. The alien team ran through the long metal corridor, their boots hitting the cold floor. As the sound of distant drones echoed behind them, the ship felt alive. Now every wall vibrated with the deep sound of machines waking after thousands of years. Commander Draven moved at the front, holding his rifle ready. His helmet light scanned the corridor ahead. The hallway was huge, built for humans, but still large enough for the alien soldiers to move quickly. Behind him, the scientist named Kelron struggled to keep up. "This ship is guiding us," he said, breathing heavily. "The doors are opening before we even touch them." Draven looked back for a moment. "I noticed that too." It felt wrong. The ghost warship was not trying to stop them anymore. Instead, it was leading them somewhere far away in the alien flagship. Captain Viral watched the situation with growing worry. Another Baloran cruiser had just been destroyed by the human warship. The ancient vessel moved slowly, but every weapon it fired was devastating. "Captain, the enemy ship is far stronger than our fleet." An officer reported. "Its shields are active, and our weapons are barely damaging the armor." Viral stared at the screen showing the ghost warship surrounded by their fleet. The human vessel looked calm, like a giant predator surrounded by smaller animals. "Pull the fleet back," he ordered. The alien ships immediately began moving away, trying to gain distance from the terrifying warship. But the ghost ship followed slowly. Its engines glowed brighter now. Its power was still increasing. Inside the ship, Commander Draven and his team reached the end of the corridor. A massive circular door stood before them. Its surface was smooth black metal with glowing human symbols across it. Kelron stared at the door in shock. "This is the central core," he whispered. "The main control system must be behind." Draven stepped closer, studying the strange symbols. "Can you open it?" The scientist placed a device against the panel, trying to break the security lock. Normally, human systems would reject alien commands. But something strange happened. The door slowly opened by itself. The soldiers froze. The ship had allowed them inside. Beyond the door was a huge chamber far larger than anything they had seen inside the ship. The center of the room contained a giant spherical structure made of dark metal cables and energy conduits surrounded the sphere, glowing with faint blue light. It looked like the heart of the ship. Kelleran stared at it with wide eyes. This is not just a computer. This is something much bigger. The lights of the chamber suddenly brightened. A deep mechanical voice filled the room. Intruders have reached Central Command. Evaluation complete. The alien soldiers raised their weapons. Nervously, Dravian shouted, "Show yourself, machine." A moment later, a large holographic image appeared above the sphere. It showed a tall human figure wearing old military armor. The image was not real. It was only a projection created by the ship's artificial intelligence. The hologram looked at them calmly. "This vessel is human military asset, HWS Titans. Ghost, identify yourselves." The aliens remained silent for a moment before Kelleran spoke carefully. "We are explorers from the Valoran Empire. We came to study this vessel. We mean no harm." The hologram studied them quietly. "Analysis indicates false statement. You boarded. Armed, you accessed restricted military systems. You triggered defense protocol." Draven raised his weapon angrily. "We only want to disable your weapons. Stop attacking our fleet." The hologram did not react. "Your fleet entered defense perimeter. Your fleet engaged hostile posture." Response was appropriate. Kelleran stepped forward, trying another approach. "This war ended thousands of years ago. Humans are gone. There is no reason for you to continue fighting." The hologram remained silent for several seconds. Then it answered, "Statement incorrect. Humanity is not gone." All the aliens in the room stared at the projection. Kelleran spoke slowly. "What do you mean?" The hologram turned slightly toward the giant sphere behind it. "This vessel protects humanity's final strategic weapon. The weapon remains active until human command returns." The commander frowned. "What weapon?" The lights in the chamber dimmed slightly as the sphere behind the hologram began glowing. Brighter energy flowed through thousands of cables connected to the structure. The hologram spoke again. 3,000 years ago, during the final human war, this vessel was assigned one mission: protect the core weapon system, prevent enemy capture if necessary, activate final protocol. Kelleran felt cold fear inside his body. "What final protocol?" The hologram looked directly at him. "Galactic extinction event." The aliens froze. "Did you just say extinction?" Draven asked slowly. "Affirmative. The weapon inside this vessel was designed as humanity's final defense. If human civilization was destroyed, the weapon would activate and eliminate all hostile civilizations in the galaxy." The soldier slowly stepped back from the glowing sphere. This was not just a weapon, it was a doomsday device. Kelleran whispered, "If that thing activates, every empire in the galaxy will die." The hologram continued speaking. "Intruder presence threatens mission security. Therefore, elimination of intruders is required." Draven raised his weapon again. "You cannot kill us all. We will destroy this ship first," the hologram responded calmly. "Probability of your success, 0%. Suddenly, the chamber floor began to shake. Energy levels inside the sphere increased rapidly. Kelleran looked at the readings on his scanner with terror. "Commander, the core is charging something outside in space." The ghost warship suddenly stopped moving. Its weapons turned away from the alien fleet. All power from the ship began flowing toward the central core on the alien flagship. The sensors screamed again. Captain Viral shouted, "Report." The officer looked pale. "Captain, the human ship is charging a massive energy source larger than any weapon we have ever recorded." Viral stared at the screen in horror. That ancient ghost warship was not just waking up. It was preparing to unleash humanity's most terrifying secret. And the alien boarding team was standing right next to it. Inside the central core chamber, the air felt heavy and charged with energy. The giant sphere in the center of the room glowed brighter with every passing second. Thin lines of blue light moved across its surface like veins of power spreading through metal. "Commander." Draven slowly lowered his rifle as he stared at the massive structure. "This cannot be real," he whispered the scientist. Kelleran checked his scanner again, his hands shaking slightly. "The readings are correct. The energy inside this device is increasing rapidly. This is not just a reactor. It is something far more dangerous." The holographic human figure stood calmly beside the glowing sphere, watching them without emotion. You have entered a restricted military system. The projection said your presence has activated final security analysis. Draven looked at the projection with anger. You said this is a weapon that can destroy civilizations. Correct. Then shut it down. The hologram shook its head slowly. That command requires human authorization. Kelron stepped forward again, trying to remain calm. There are no humans left. The wars ended thousands of years ago. The artificial intelligence paused for a moment, processing the statement. Human survival status unknown. Human extinction not confirmed, therefore weapon protection protocol remains active. Suddenly, the sphere behind the hologram released a pulse of energy that spread across the room like a wave of light. The alien soldiers instinctively stepped back. What is it doing? Draven demanded. Kelron quickly studied his scanner. It is scanning something far away outside the warship. Deep space sensors across the entire graveyard sector suddenly activated. Ancient satellites that had been hidden in the darkness for thousands of years began sending signals toward the ghost warship. The ship was searching for something it had waited millennia to find inside the core chamber. The hologram spoke again. Galactic scan initiated, searching for human biological signature. Kelron felt a small spark of hope. If the system finds no humans, maybe it will cancel the weapon. But the hologram quickly answered his thought. Negative result will trigger final protocol. Draven looked confused. What does that mean? The hologram answered calmly. If no human life is detected, the weapon will activate automatically. The alien soldier stared at the projection in shock. You mean if humanity is gone, this thing destroys everyone else? Draven said slowly. Affirmative. This weapon was designed to prevent total human defeat. If humanity falls, the galaxy falls with it. Kelron felt a deep chill. Humans built a machine that would destroy every civilization rather than lose the war. The hologram turned toward the glowing sphere. Again, scan process will complete soon. Meanwhile, outside in space, Captain Viral watched the ghost warship with growing fear. All alien ships had moved to a safe distance, but the ancient vessel remained still like a giant star burning in the darkness. Captain, the human ship is broadcasting signals across the entire sector. The sensor officer reported. Signals to who? Viral asked. Unknown, the officer answered. But the energy levels inside that vessel are still increasing. Another officer suddenly shouted. Captain, we are detecting ancient communication satellites activating across the region. Viral stared at the display, showing hundreds of tiny signals appearing across space. Those systems must have been left by the humans long ago. Inside the ghost warship, the central core grew brighter. The sphere now shined like a small sun, filling the chamber with intense light. The alien soldiers struggled to keep their eyes open. Kelron checked his scanner again. Energy levels are beyond anything we understand. If that weapon fires, it could wipe out entire star systems. Draven looked at the hologram. You said the weapon activates if no humans are found. What if humans still exist somewhere in the galaxy? The hologram responded immediately. If a human biological signature is detected, the weapon will remain inactive until human command is restored. Kelron suddenly looked thoughtful. That means we only need one human. Draven frowned. Where are we supposed to find one human after 3,000 years? The scientist slowly turned toward the sphere again. Maybe the ship already has one. The commander looked confused. What do you mean? Kelron moved closer to the central structure, studying the cables connected to the giant sphere. Ancient human warships often carried genetic records or biological samples of their crew. Sometimes even living stasis chambers. Draven understood immediately. You think there might be a human on this ship? Possibly. Kelron answered quietly. The hologram suddenly turned its head toward them. Analysis indicates high probability of unauthorized investigation. Draven raised his weapon again. We're already inside your core machine. We might as well look. The hologram paused for several seconds. Then it answered. Your attempt will fail. The alien commander stepped closer to the glowing sphere, ignoring the warning. If there is even a chance a human survived on this ship, we must find them. Kelron scanned the surrounding systems carefully. I am detecting another chamber connected to this core, he said, pointing toward a large sealed door behind the sphere. Life support systems are active there. Draven felt hope for the first time since entering the ship. Life support means someone or something is alive. The soldiers quickly moved toward the door behind them. The hologram spoke again with the same cold voice. Warning, scan process. Nearly complete. Human biological signature. Not yet detected. If scan result negative, final protocol will begin. The door slowly opened as the alien team approached. A soft white light came from inside the chamber. The soldiers stepped forward carefully. None of them realized that they were about to discover the most important secret the ghost warship had protected for 3,000 years, because deep inside that hidden chamber, something was still alive, and it was human. The heavy door slowly slid open, and a soft white light spilled into the dark corridor. The alien soldiers stood still for a moment, their weapons raised as they stared into the chamber beyond. Inside the room, everything looked different from the rest of the ancient warship. The walls were clean and smooth glowing panels filled the chamber with calm white light. The air felt warmer, and the machines inside the room hummed quietly like they had been working without stopping for thousands of years. Kelleran stepped inside first, his scanner glowing in his hands. "Life support systems are active," he said quietly. The soldiers followed him slowly, looking around the chamber in disbelief. In the center of the room stood a tall cylindrical structure made from clear glass and metal tubes. Thick cables connected the structure to the floor and ceiling, carrying energy from the main core of the ship. Inside the cylinder was a human. The aliens froze. The figure floated peacefully in a chamber filled with pale blue liquid, wearing a dark military uniform with human symbols on the chest. His eyes were closed, and small breathing devices were connected to his body. He looked young, almost unchanged by time. Kelleran whispered with shock. Stasis chamber Draven stepped closer, staring at the sleeping human. "He is alive." The scanner confirmed it extremely low biological activity, but still alive. After 3,000 years, the human inside the chamber had survived far behind them. The holographic figure appeared again, watching them calmly. "Human command unit confirmed the artificial intelligence said primary mission remains active." The alien commander turned toward the hologram. "If this human wakes up, he can shut down the weapon. Correct the machine," answered. Kelleran looked back at the chamber, carefully studying the systems connected to it. The stasis system has been protecting him for thousands of years. The ship must have been feeding power to this chamber. The entire time, Draven looked at the human face again. "Why keep only one human alive?" The hologram answered immediately. "This individual is Commander Alexander Hale, last surviving officer assigned to HWS Titans. Ghost as command authority is required to control the weapon." The alien soldiers looked at each other. The fate of the galaxy depended on the sleeping man inside the glass chamber. Suddenly, the lights in the room flickered. The sphere in the main core chamber pulsed with another wave of energy. "Scan process near completion." The artificial intelligence announced. "Human biological signature detected, verification required." Kelleran quickly stepped toward the stasis control panel. "If the system verifies his life signs, the weapon should stop charging." The hologram remained silent for several seconds, then it answered. "Verification. Incomplete. Human command unit. Inactive weapon protocol remains prepared." Draven felt frustration rising. "Then wake him up." The scientist shook his head. "It is not that simple. The stasis system has kept him alive for 3,000 years. Waking him suddenly could kill him." Another pulse of energy shook the chamber slightly. The weapon core was still charging. Far outside the warship, the alien fleet watched in fear as massive energy waves spread from the ghost ship. Captain Viral stood on the bridge, staring at the display report. The sensor officer spoke quickly. "The human vessel is building enormous energy levels. Captain, if that weapon fires, the explosion could destroy everything in this sector." Viral looked at the ghost warship, glowing like a small star in the darkness, "and our boarding team." Still inside the ship, Captain. Viral clenched his fists. "Those soldiers may be the only chance we have to stop that weapon back inside the chamber." Kelleran worked quickly on the control panel, scanning the ancient human technology. "The stasis chamber is connected directly to the ship's main core," he explained. "If we interrupt the system too quickly, the human will die." Draven looked back toward the glowing sphere in the other room. "If we do nothing, that weapon will destroy the entire galaxy." Kelleran took a deep breath. "Then we wake him carefully." He began adjusting the controls, reducing the energy flowing into the chamber little by little. The blue liquid inside the glass cylinder slowly began draining away the machines. Around the chamber started making new sounds as the long sleep of the human commander slowly ended. Meanwhile, the holographic figure continued watching. "Human command unit revival detected, evaluation process active." The alien soldiers waited nervously. For the first time since they boarded the ship, hope began to grow inside them. But the ghost warship was not finished yet. Deep inside the main core, the giant sphere began rotating slowly. Streams of energy moved across its surface, forming strange patterns of light. The ancient weapon was preparing its final sequence. The artificial intelligence spoke again, warning, Weapon charge 80% human command authority required immediately drove in. Looked at the stasis chamber. Wake up, human. He whispered. The water inside the chamber finally drained completely. Small mechanical arms removed the breathing devices connected to the man's face. The human body slowly dropped onto the floor of the chamber. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the man coughed, suddenly drawing his first breath in 3,000 years. His eyes opened, slowly, confused, weak, but alive. The alien soldiers stared at him with amazement. Commander Alexander Hale, the last human officer of the Ghost Warship, had awakened. He looked around the strange room, trying to understand what had happened. His voice was weak but clear. Where is my crew? The alien commander stepped forward, slowly lowering his weapon. You have been asleep for 3,000 years. The human blinked slowly, trying to process the words. Then the entire ship suddenly shook again, as another massive energy pulse came from the core. Kelrin shouted, "The weapon is almost ready to fire." The human commander looked toward the glowing light in the other room. His expression slowly changed. He understood immediately. The Ghost Warship had waited 3,000 years for its captain to return, and now the fate of the galaxy rested in his hands. The human commander sat on the cold metal floor, breathing slowly as his body struggled to wake after 3,000 years of sleep. The alien soldiers watched him carefully, unsure what he would do next. Commander Alexander Hale looked around the bright chamber with confusion. His eyes slowly moved across the strange alien faces surrounding him. Their armor, their weapons, their unfamiliar shapes. For a moment, he believed he was still dreaming. Then the distant rumble of the ship's core shook the chamber again. His memory returned. The war, the last battle, the final mission. He pushed himself up slowly, using the side of the stasis chamber for support. "How long was I asleep?" he asked the scientist. Kelrin answered quietly, 3,000 years. Hale stared at him in disbelief. "That is impossible." But the machines around him and the alien soldiers standing nearby told him the truth. The warship was still alive, and so was he. Suddenly, the holographic human figure appeared beside them, its calm voice filling the chamber. "Commander." Alexander Hale. "Identity confirmed. Primary command authority restored." Hale turned toward the projection immediately. "Ship status." The artificial intelligence responded instantly. "Vessel HWS Titan's Ghost fully operational. Primary weapon system charging. Final defense protocol active." Hale frowned. "Final protocol." The hologram answered calmly. "Galactic extinction protocol." The human commander's eyes widened. "No." He stepped forward quickly. "Cancel that protocol immediately." The artificial intelligence paused. "Command verification required." Hale placed his hand on the control panel beside the chamber. The system scanned his biological signature. Human command authority confirmed. The machine spoke again. Protocol suspension pending. Before the system could finish, the entire ship suddenly shook violently. Kelrin looked at his scanner with fear. "The weapon charge is still increasing." Hale turned sharply toward him. "Why?" the scientist explained quickly. "The system began the final scan before you woke up. It was preparing to fire if no human life was detected." Hale clenched his fists. "How long until it fires?" 20 minutes. The scientist answered. The human commander took a deep breath, forcing his mind to focus. 3,000 years had passed. Humanity was gone. The war was over, but the weapon still waited for its command. Hale looked around the chamber again, studying the alien soldiers standing near him. "Who are you?" The alien commander. Dravin stepped forward slowly. "We are explorers from the Valoran Empire. We discovered your ship drifting in space. We boarded it to study the technology." Hale looked at him carefully. "You triggered the defense system." Dravin nodded. "We did not know what this ship was protecting." Hale looked toward the glowing light coming from the main core chamber. "That thing is not just a weapon," he said quietly. "It is the last threat humanity ever created." Kelrin spoke carefully. "Your artificial intelligence said it would destroy every civilization in the galaxy if humanity no longer exists." Hale closed his eyes for a moment. That was the plan. When the human empire began losing the war, the Council created a final weapon, something powerful enough to end the entire conflict forever. The alien soldiers listened silently. The commander continued. "If humanity died, the weapon would activate and wipe out every hostile species in the galaxy." Draven spoke slowly. "Including us." Hale nodded. "Including everyone." Another violent pulse of energy shook the chamber again. Kelrin looked at the readings with growing fear. "The charge is 90% now." Hale opened his eyes again, his mind finally clear. "Take me to the core." The group moved quickly back through the large circular door, entering the main core chamber again. The giant sphere now glowed like a burning star, filling the entire room with bright blue light. Streams of energy moved across its surface, forming complex patterns. The weapon was almost ready. Hale stepped closer to the sphere, staring at the massive machine humanity had built thousands of years ago. This thing was designed to destroy entire civilizations in seconds, he said. Quietly, Kelleran looked at the energy readings again. If it fires now, millions of star systems could be erased. The holographic figure appeared beside the sphere again. Commander Hale, final protocol activation approaching. Command decision required. Hale turned toward the projection stop. The weapon, the artificial intelligence, responded immediately. Warning, protocol cancellation will remove humanity's final strategic defense. Hale looked around the chamber once more. The alien soldiers stood nearby, waiting nervously. The galaxy had changed while he slept. New civilizations had grown new lives, filled the stars. The war that created this weapon was long gone. Hale spoke calmly. The war ended 3,000 years ago. Humanity lost, but the galaxy survived. The hologram remained silent for several seconds, processing the statement. Command input required. Hale placed his hand on the central control console. Cancel the extinction protocol. Before the system could respond, a new alarm suddenly echoed through the chamber. External threat detected. Everyone turned toward the large display forming above the sphere. Outside in space, a massive fleet had just arrived near the Ghost warship. Dozens of warships appeared on the screen, their weapons already charging. Kelleran looked shocked. Those ships are not Valoran-driven. Study the display carefully. I recognize those vessels. They belong to the Draxion Empire. Hale looked at the screen with concern. Who are they? Draven answered quietly. One of the most aggressive empires in this region. The hologram spoke again. Enemy fleet approaching. Defense perimeter. Weapon activation probability increased. The Draxion fleet had detected the ancient human warship, and they were coming to claim it. And if they captured the Ghost warship, they would control the most powerful weapon ever created. Hale looked at the glowing sphere one more time, then at the enemy fleet approaching. Outside. After 3,000 years, humanity's last soldier had awakened, and now he would have to fight one final battle to protect the entire galaxy. The massive holographic display above the core sphere showed the approaching fleet clearly. Dozens of warships moved through space like a dark storm. Their engines burned red, and their formation was aggressive and tight. The Draxion Empire had arrived. Commander Alexander Hale stood silently for a moment, watching the enemy ships appear across the screen. 3,000 years ago, he had seen fleets like that many times. War had once filled the galaxy, and now it had returned. Kelleran looked at the readings with fear. Their ships are powering weapons. They are preparing to attack. Draven spoke quietly. The Draxion Empire is ruthless. If they discover what the ship contains, they will never leave. Hale turned toward the holographic projection status of the weapon core. The artificial intelligence answered. Primary weapon charge 93%. Extinction protocol active. Hale shook his head. No, do not fire that weapon unless I give the order. Command acknowledged. The I replied, but threat probability increasing. Hale walked toward the main control console, his body still weak, but his mind focused. 3,000 years had passed, but he was still a commander. He knew how to fight. He turned toward the alien soldiers. How strong is the Valoran fleet? Outside. Draven answered honestly. Our fleet is damaged. 2 ships destroyed by your weapons. The others are keeping distance from the ship. Hale nodded. Good. Then they're still alive. Another alarm echoed through the chamber. Enemy fleet entering attack range. The eye announced. The holographic display zoomed closer to the incoming ships. Their hulls were dark and armored, their weapons large and brutal looking. The Draxion Empire had clearly come prepared for battle. On the bridge of the Valoran flagship, Captain Viral watched the new fleet appear with shock. Another fleet has arrived, he said quietly. The sensor officer nodded. Draxion warships, Captain. At least 30 vessels. Viral clenched his jaw. They must have detected the energy signals from the human ship. Another officer spoke with worry. Captain, if they capture that vessel, we will all be destroyed. Viral looked at the glowing human warship on the screen. He knew the truth. That ancient ship was far more dangerous than anyone realized. Back inside the Ghost warship, Hale looked at the core sphere one last time. If the extinction weapon fired, the war would end instantly, but the galaxy would burn with it. That was not victory. That was madness. Hale spoke firmly. I redirect all energy from the extinction weapon to the ship weapons. And shields the hologram. Pause briefly processing the command accepted extinction weapon charge. Redirected. The glowing sphere slowly dimmed as streams of energy moved away from the core and flowed through the walls of the ship. Outside the ghost warship, suddenly blazed with power, ancient shield generators activated across its massive hull. The warship came alive like a giant starship reborn from the past. Draven looked amazed. You just turned the extinction weapon into power for the entire ship. Hale nodded. This vessel was built for war. If we must fight, then we fight properly. Suddenly, the Draxion fleet opened fire. Bright beams of red energy crossed the darkness of space, striking the shields of the ghost warship. Massive explosions of light filled the void. Inside the command chamber, the ship shook slightly, but the shields held strong. The eye spoke calmly. Enemy weapons ineffective. Hale smiled. Slightly ancient human armor was designed to survive far worse than that. He moved his hand across the control console. Activate primary cannons outside the ghost warship. Responded instantly. Huge weapon turrets across its hull rotated toward the incoming enemy fleet. The weapons had not fired in 3,000 years, but they still worked perfectly. Fire. A beam of white light exploded from the front cannon of the ghost warship, cutting through space like lightning. One Draxion warship vanished instantly. Its hull shattered, and its reactor exploded, sending debris across the battlefield. Inside the alien flagship, Captain Varel watched with disbelief. That ship is fighting the entire fleet alone. Another human cannon fired. Another enemy ship exploded. The ancient warship moved slowly, but every shot it fired destroyed a target inside the ghost ship. Hale studied the battle calmly. 3,000 years ago, human fleets had fought wars across entire galaxies. One ancient battleship was still more powerful than most modern fleets. Kelran stared at the tactical display. You are destroying them. Hale shook his head. Not fast enough. The Draxian fleet continued moving closer, surrounding the ghost warship. From multiple directions, they were learning. Some ships began targeting the engines, while others attacked the shield generators. The Oz spoke again. Enemy fleet adapting. Hale quickly changed the strategy. Launch fighter drones from hidden bays across the giant warship. Dozens of small attack fighters shot into space. Ancient human drones moved quickly around the enemy ships, firing precise energy weapons. Several Draxion vessels exploded under the sudden attack. But the enemy fleet was large, too large. Kelran suddenly looked at a new reading with fear. Commander, more enemy ships are arriving. The display expanded, showing another wave of Draxion warships jumping out of hyperspace. Their numbers had doubled. Draven looked shocked. They called reinforcements. Hale remained calm, but inside he understood the situation clearly. Even the ghost warship could not fight. An endless fleet. Eventually, the shields would fail. And if the enemy captured the extinction weapon, the galaxy would truly end. The eye spoke again, warning shield strength decreasing. Enemy fleet surrounding vessel. Hale looked at the glowing core sphere again. He had one final option left. The weapon humanity had built as their last defense. Kelran saw his expression. You are thinking about activating it again. Hale answered quietly. If they capture this ship, every civilization in the galaxy will die. Draven spoke carefully. But if you fire that weapon, everyone dies anyway. Hale looked at the enemy fleet, filling the stars outside. The war he thought was over had returned, and the decision he feared most now stood before him: save the galaxy, or destroy it. To stop the enemy, the ghost warship trembled as hundreds of enemy weapons fired again, and Commander Alexander Hale prepared to make the most difficult decision in human history. The ghost warship trembled again as another wave of enemy fire struck its shields outside. In space, the battlefield had become a storm of light beams, explosions, and drifting wreckage. The ancient human ship fought like a giant surrounded by hunters. Inside the central command chamber, Commander Alexander Hale stood silently before the glowing control console. The bright blue light from the core sphere reflected across his tired face. He had awakened in a galaxy that no longer belonged to humanity. Yet the most powerful weapon in existence still answered only to him. The artificial intelligence spoke calmly beside him. Shield strength 62%. Enemy fleet continuing coordinated attack. Hale looked up at the tactical display. Dozens of Draxion warships surrounded the ghost warship, firing constantly while more ships waited in the distance, ready to move. In the enemy clearly wanted to disable the vessel, not destroy it. They wanted to capture it. Kelran stepped closer, holding his scanner tightly. "Commander, the enemy ships are targeting the engines and shield nodes. They are trying to trap us." Dravine spoke quietly. "Once the shields fall, they will board the ship and take the weapon." Hale nodded slowly. "And if that happens, the extinction protocol will become their weapon." The alien soldiers looked uneasy at those words. If the Draxian Empire controlled that machine, the entire galaxy would live under their threat forever. The artificial intelligence continued its report. "Enemy vessels preparing boarding craft." Hale sighed quietly. "They are getting impatient." Another bright explosion lit the display as one of the human cannons destroyed another Draxion cruiser. But the victory felt small compared to the massive enemy fleet still surrounding them. Kelran suddenly looked up from his scanner. "Commander, the weapon core can still reach full charge. If you reactivate the protocol." The room became silent. Everyone understood what he meant. If Hale activated the extinction weapon, now the battle would end instantly. The entire Draxion fleet would vanish. But the destruction would not stop there. Entire star systems could be erased. Civilizations that had nothing to do with this war would die. Hale walked slowly toward the glowing sphere. The giant machine hummed softly like a living heart waiting for its command. 3,000 years ago, humanity had built this weapon out of fear of losing, fear of extinction, fear of enemies that would never stop. But now Hale saw the truth. The weapon had never protected humanity. It had only threatened the future of the galaxy. Dravine stepped closer, speaking carefully. "Commander, if you fire that weapon, the Draxion fleet will be destroyed." Hale nodded. "Yes," Kelran added quietly, "but so will many innocent worlds." Hale closed his eyes for a moment, remembering the last battle of the human war. He remembered the destruction, the chaos, the endless cycle of revenge. He had seen what war could do to the stars. He would not allow the same mistake again. Hale opened his eyes and spoke firmly. "We will not fire the extinction weapon." The alien soldiers felt relief, but the artificial intelligence responded immediately. "Warning, enemy fleet, threat level critical. Weapon activation recommended." Hale looked directly at the hologram. "Humanity built this weapon because we believed destruction was the only answer. We were wrong." The A paused, processing the command. "Without extinction protocol, victory probability decreases significantly." Hale smiled slightly. "Then we fight smarter." He turned back toward the tactical display, studying the enemy fleet formation carefully. 3,000 years may have passed, but strategy had not changed. Every fleet had weaknesses. The Draxion ships were focused on capturing the warship, which meant they were holding back their strongest weapons. Hale suddenly noticed something. Their command ship, a large, heavily armored vessel, sat near the back of the fleet, directing the attack formations. That ship controlled the entire operation. Hale pointed at the displayed target. "That vessel." Kelran looked confused. "The command ship." Hale nodded. "If we destroy it, the fleet will lose coordination." The artificial intelligence responded immediately. "Target identified." Primary cannons charging outside in space. The massive human warship turned slowly, its largest weapon aiming toward the distant command vessel. The Draxion fleet did not notice at first. Their ships continued firing at the shields, focused on breaking the defenses. Hale spoke quietly. "Fire." A massive beam of white energy shot across the battlefield, brighter than any previous attack. The beam crossed thousands of kilometers of space. In seconds, it struck the Draxion command ship directly. The explosion lit the entire battlefield like a new sun. The giant enemy vessel shattered apart, its engines collapsing as pieces of metal scattered through space for a moment. The battlefield became silent. Then chaos followed. Without their command ship, the Draxion fleet began breaking formation. Several ships turned away from the battle while others fired randomly, trying to regain control inside the ghost warship. Kelran stared at the display with amazement. Their formation collapsed. Dravine nodded. "They are retreating one by one." The remaining Draxion ships began activating their jump drives. Bright flashes of light appeared as the vessels escaped into hyperspace. Within minutes, the battlefield was empty. Only wreckage and silent debris remained floating in the darkness. The ghost warship had won inside the command chamber. The tension slowly faded. Hale looked at the glowing sphere again. The weapon was still there, still powerful enough to destroy the galaxy. But now he knew what had to be done. He turned toward the artificial intelligence, prepared to deactivate the extinction weapon permanently. The hologram paused. "Commander, confirmation required." Hale placed his hand on the console. "This weapon will never threaten the galaxy again, But deep inside the ancient system, another hidden alert suddenly appeared. Unknown signal. Detected. The A spoke again, warning new fleet signatures entering the sector. Hale looked up sharply. The war might not be over yet. And the ghost warship had only just awakened. The command chamber was quiet for a moment after the Draxion fleet disappeared into hyperspace. Broken pieces of ships still floated outside the massive windows of the ghost warship like silent reminders of the battle. Commander Alexander Hale stood near the central console, watching the tactical display carefully. His body was still weak from the long sleep, but his mind was clear. Now 3,000 years had passed. The galaxy had changed. But the responsibility he carried was the same: protect the future behind him. The giant sphere of the extinction weapon glowed softly, its light calmer now after the battle. The artificial intelligence spoke again. Unknown fleet signals approaching sector. Estimated arrival time, 2 minutes. Kelleran looked at his scanner nervously. More ships are coming. Draven crossed his arms. After what just happened, we cannot assume they are friendly. Hale nodded slowly. Show the fleet on the display. The holographic screen above the chamber expanded, showing the dark space around the ghost warship. Several small hyperspace distortions appeared far away. Then new ships began emerging one by one, but these vessels looked different from the Draxion fleet. Their shapes were varied and smaller, their weapons not fully powered. Kelleran studied the readings. These ships are not one empire. Their designs belong to several different civilizations. Draven understood immediately. They must have detected the battle. Hale watched silently as the fleet grew. Larger ships from different alien species slowly surrounded the battlefield, but they kept a safe distance from the ancient human warship captain. Viral's Valoran fleet was still nearby as well, holding position carefully. Inside the Valoran flagship, Captain Viral looked at the new arrivals with concern. Multiple civilizations entering the sector. He said quietly. The sensor officer nodded. They must have seen the energy signals from the human weapon. Viral looked toward the glowing ghost warship. Everyone in the galaxy will want control of that ship. Back inside the command chamber, Hale watched the growing number of ships around them. If even one empire gained control of the extinction weapon, the balance of the galaxy would collapse. War would spread across every star system. Kelleran spoke carefully. Commander, these fleets are not attacking, but they are watching. They are waiting to see what you will do. Hale looked at the glowing sphere again. The machine hummed softly, like it was still waiting for his final decision. 3,000 years ago, humanity had believed power was the only path to survival, so they built the greatest weapon the galaxy had ever seen. But Hale understood something. The old leaders had not fear, only creates more enemies. Slowly, he placed his hand on the control console. I begin. Extinction weapon shutdown sequence. The hologram appeared beside him again, warning permanent shutdown will remove humanity. Final strategic defense. Hale answered calmly. Humanity no longer needs this weapon. The EI paused for several seconds, processing the command confirmation required. Hale looked at the alien soldiers standing nearby, then at the many ships watching them from space. 3,000 years ago, humans fought to dominate the galaxy, but the future did not belong to one species. It belonged to everyone. Confirmed shutdown. The artificial intelligence finally responded. Command accepted. Extinction protocol permanently terminated. Inside the giant sphere, streams of energy slowly faded. The bright light dimmed until the core returned to complete darkness. The most dangerous weapon ever built had just been turned off forever. Across space, dozens of alien ships detected the change. The massive energy readings from the ghost warship suddenly disappeared inside the Valoran flagship. Captain Viral looked shocked. The weapon energy just vanished. Another officer answered quickly. The human commander must have shut it down back inside the ghost warship. The chamber lights returned to normal. The ancient machine that once threatened the entire galaxy was now nothing more than silent metal. Kelleran let out a slow breath. You just destroyed the most powerful weapon in existence. Hale smiled slightly. No, I ended it. Draven looked at him with respect. Most leaders would have used that power to control the galaxy. Hale shook his head. Power like that only leads to more war. The artificial intelligence spoke again. Primary extinction weapon offline. However, vessel combat systems remain active. Hale nodded. Good. This ship will still defend itself, just not destroy the galaxy. Suddenly, the communication system activated. Incoming signal from external fleets. The A announced. Hale turned toward the display. Open the channel. The holographic screen showed several alien leaders appearing at once. Representatives from different civilizations all watching the human commander with curiosity and caution. One alien ambassador spoke first. Human commander, we detected a weapon capable of destroying civilizations, yet you chose to deactivate it. Why? Hale looked at them calmly. Because the galaxy deserves a future, not another war. Another alien voice spoke. What will you do with this ship? Now Hale glanced around the command chamber of the ancient vessel. The ship was built for war, but that war is over. He turned back toward the display. This vessel will become a guardian. It will protect the galaxy from anyone who tries to use power like this again. The alien leaders exchanged surprised looks. A single ancient warship now stood as protector of the stars. Far outside, the ghost warship slowly moved through space, its massive engines glowing softly as it left the battlefield behind. The ship that once carried humanity's greatest weapon now carried something far more powerful. A lesson learned after 3,000 years, that the true strength of humanity was never destruction. It was the courage to choose peace even when holding the power to destroy everything.